All right, so you finally bought the gear you've been asking for. You got a newer camera, you got a switcher, you have the hardware you need to stream, and you're finally pumped. It's gonna look professional for the first time, no longer band-aiding your way through online ministry. You get everything set up, it's plugged in, it works, it looks awesome on your multi-view, and you're feeling great. Then you go check YouTube or Facebook or wherever to make sure it's getting through, and all of a sudden you realize your awesome looking professional live stream looks like a cheap home movie. In this video, we're gonna talk about why that is and what you can do to fix it. Well, hey, thanks for checking this video out today. I'm Spencer from churchvideoschool.com, and I help churches learn the technical skills and ministry strategies needed to win in online ministry. If you're still struggling to find the right gear for your budget in your church and want help, make sure you check out the free church video gear guide linked in the description below. And if you want to talk to somebody about your specific situation and the right solutions for your church, make sure you click the link in the description to book a phone call today. Okay, so why does your live stream look like a cheap home video? Well, if you've seen any of my videos before, you know I like to break down the live streaming process and setup and systems into 4 distinct parts. You've got video capture, you've got audio, you've got switching and graphics, and then you've got encoding and uploading. Most of you watching this video have probably focused primarily on the front half of that equation. You're focused on the camera, and you're focused on audio, which are 2 super important things. It's not wrong to focus on video and audio, but it doesn't stop with just good capture. It's critical that you have the right hardware to support the feeds that you're receiving from your mixer and from your cameras. That's what video switching is for. Now, I know many of you have invested in this part of your process. Some of you are still trying to use software patches and NDI and not buying a switcher. If that's you, buy a switcher. They are not that expensive and they do dramatically improve the quality and latency of your stream. But the number one area that most churches still have a lot of room to grow is going to be their output, their encoding and their uploading. So in this video, we're going to tackle that process, what it looks like, why you're getting the results you're getting, and some ways to improve it. First things first, time for a snack. So when your video comes out of your switcher and into your broadcast software, or potentially straight from your camera into your broadcast software, your video coming in is being transcoded. Transcoded just means it's being compressed, it's being changed in format so that it can be handled by your computer and sent for transport online. If you're feeding directly into your computer, you're now asking your computer's processor to take on that additional task of properly formatting, reading, and interpreting all that raw video data that's coming in from your camera. Now, regardless of your setup, once the feed is into your software, the software's job is then to read and interpret that data, add any graphics or anything else you might want to, but then compress the data again into a new format for uploading. Generally speaking, your software wants to squeeze the data down as much as possible so that it's only uploading what's absolutely necessary so that it doesn't run out of bandwidth, it doesn't lag, and it doesn't crash. The trade-off is that you're losing a lot of quality. The result is that you have a less efficient form of compression that does a worse job at preserving the image quality while also reducing file size. Now, if you thought that was the end of the process, it's not. To make matters worse, when you get to YouTube, Facebook, Church Online, or any other cloud hosting platform, their servers have a finite amount of real estate. So they also compress and reformat your video to their own type of codec so that it's, again, as small as possible. So to zoom out of the process, your cameras are going to be compressing the data, or your switcher is going to be compressing the data upon receiving it, which is totally normal and part of the video capture process. It's then being compressed and encoded again by your uploading software, and then it's being compressed and encoded a third time by the cloud hosting service you send your stream to. In short, the reason that your live stream looks way different online on your YouTube stream versus what you see in your multi-view from your switcher is those levels of compression. Now, I'm sure you're starting to wonder if there's a way to get around these compression issues and have a higher quality stream online, and I would say yes. The number one way to do that is smash the like and subscribe buttons on this video. Well, the most obvious way to fix all this quality loss because of compression is to remove as much compression as possible. let's talk really quick about what compression actually is so that you have a better understanding of what's going on to your video. So I'm going to put a paragraph up here on the screen, and we're going to pretend that this is uncompressed video coming straight out of your camera. It's got all the data in there that you need. It's got nice letters. All the words have all the letters in them. It looks nice. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go through a layer of compression, and I'm going to take all the vowels out of these words. And you may have seen this before, that you can still probably read the sentence without most of the vowels in there because these words are familiar to you, and you can basically decode the words without the vowels in there. And that's what happens in compression. It takes out data that's not absolutely essential, but still allows you to see and hear what is originally intended. But if we do another layer of compression, say, and go, you know what? We don't actually need this big of letters. All that data is actually inefficient. So we're going to make the letters skinnier and make them smaller. And we're going to take out information, right? So we're going to do that again, and now it's a little bit harder to read. Technically, it's still legible, and it still has the information you need. But then if we change the spacing and we compress it again and make everything a little bit closer together, you can start to see that now it's becoming kind of a mess. And it's a lot harder to read. You really have no idea what we're looking at here. But you can only strip data so many times before you actually start noticing that stuff isn't there. Now that's just a crude example, but hopefully it helps you understand kind of the idea behind compression and why over-compressing images results in lower quality and a bunch of weird looking colors and blocking and other artifacts is what we call them in your video. So there are two primary ways to fight all this compression in your video. The first is to use a dedicated hardware encoder. The most prominent option out there for churches is going to be the Resi lineup of hardware encoders, but there's other options out there, some really expensive, some moderately expensive, but you're essentially buying another brain. So you're going to be spending a few $100s to a few $1,000s for a hardware encoder. Now, why does this help? Well, if you have dedicated hardware focused on compressing your video and encoding it to a different format, you no longer have to share CPU space, and you're no longer relying on software algorithms to do the compression for you. This allows for two things to take place. First is that you have a really consistent output because you're not sharing resources. It's dedicated just to video encoding. And second, because it's hardware-based and not software-based, you're actually going to get a better output. It's not going to rely on following lines of code so much as it's relying on a hardline path of transistors and microprocessors to get your video converted from one format to the other. And that's going to improve the quality of the video that comes out on the other side, both as far as reliability goes and in terms of quality. The second thing you can do to overcome all these layers of compression is change the way your video is uploaded. There are different kinds of upload formats and different kinds of protocols for how your computer and its software talks to YouTube, Facebook, Church Online, or whatever, and how they send that data live. Again, most of the time your software is trying to squeeze the data down into the smallest file type possible so that it has as little to send as possible so that it doesn't completely drop out or get clogged and backed up, which obviously is a really big deal. The good news for a lot of you is that the A10 Mini Pro ISO actually have hardware encoding built into them, and you can actually plug an Ethernet cable directly into those switchers and bypass that software layer of processing and uploading, and you can actually upload straight from your switcher, which again, basically saves an entire step of compression, which is awesome. For those of you who don't have those switcher models and don't want to invest in another computer or piece of hardware like a Resi encoder, there is another option. Just a few weeks ago, ProPresenter and Resi paired up, and you can now use the Resi streaming protocol from inside ProPresenter's software. The Resi streaming protocol is one of the only options out there for changing the way your video is actually uploaded to the internet. They have figured out a way to send your video without compressing it at all, which is absolutely amazing. And considering the price point that this protocol is, it's a no-brainer for churches of any budget. To keep it simple, their protocol promises two things. One, it sends packets of information. It's not a constant stream, and there is a bit of a delay, but because of that, you're not losing any data to compression. Also because of that, you're not going to have any skips, lags, or dropped frames like you do in all other streaming environments. Because they send things in packets with a delay, it allows them to make sure that everything gets up there in an exact copy of what was sent before they move on to the next packet, which allows you watching on the other end to see an uninterrupted and uncompressed feed. Now, if you don't buy a Resi hardware device and you just want to feed your video into ProPresenter and send it from there, you're still going to see a massive increase in quality, but it won't be as good as using a hardware encoder because you're still going to be relying on that computer's processor and GPU to encode that video for uploading. So you have to be careful you don't ask too much of that computer. Don't run multi-tracks from that computer, and don't be doing a lot of other graphics intensive stuff because you may overload your CPU and have trouble. But if you're looking at cost-effective ways to dramatically increase the quality of your feed for people watching at home, pairing up Resi and ProPresenter 7 is going to be the most cost-effective solution for you to have a great live stream experience for people at home. So to sum this video up, if you're seeing a low quality end product on YouTube or Facebook or somewhere else, it's because it's being compressed too many times, which is why I'm not a huge fan of software uploading and encoding solutions. If you can find room in your budget to optimize your system and really invest in the online experience, I really recommend looking at the Resi Ray or Resi Prism encoders. But if that's a little bit too much of a stretch for you to invest in yet another piece of gear, you now have the ability to pay a monthly fee to have access to Resi's cloud and Resi's software encoding protocol in order to get your video uploaded without compression in that step. And honestly, just knowing that your live stream video is not going to skip or freeze or lag, and that you're going to have one less layer of compression and have a much clearer, cleaner end product feed is a dramatic improvement in people's experience, and I think it's worth every penny you pay for it. So I just want to encourage you that you are doing a great job, and I hope that this video, this channel, has helped you make a little bit more sense out of what's going on with video and live streaming so that you can serve your people better through online church. All right, make sure you check out the links in the description to the stuff we talked about, free church video gear guide, getting on the phone and talking through your situation, and all the gear that was listed in the video. Make sure you like and subscribe to help me make more videos like this, and I'll see you next time.